over there. All right. Well, welcome back, guys. Thanks for coming back. We were really concerned about having that dinner on a Tuesday and then everyone taking off on Wednesday. So you know I can get an early flight out, which makes my life happy. Okay, a couple things, guys. Housekeeping really quick. I'm going to have John English come up. We had a great charitable fundraiser yesterday, and he's going to break it down really quick because we are very open regarding our book. So, John, here you go, bro.
All right, thanks. First off, thanks to everyone who showed up last night to support the banquet. Congratulations to all the inductees for being there. They're really the foundation of the ABC and allow us to kind of take everything to the next level. So without them, we wouldn't be here today. So big congratulations to all of them. Thank you. So I got to say, I'm pretty overwhelmed. I mean, last night was incredible. The auction took in $11,720. So combined with our cornhole and apparel sales, we're at a record. It's the most we've ever raised at an ABC convention in the history of the conventions. We're at $15,220. So that money's going to go a long way. I really look forward to being able to give you the update next year on who that is going to bless. I want to thank everyone who participated, who bid, and most importantly, all those athletes that signed those gloves. So if any of you have connections, if you got those materials, just give them a huge thanks on the whole committee's behalf. So enjoy the rest of the conference, and I can't thank you all again enough. Thank you very much. God bless. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Okay. I'm a little foggy, guys, so bear with me. Next topic I'm going to throw in here really quick is the committees. Guys, we have a lot of committees that we love new blood on. You know, I say this over and over again, and I have to say, when you're on a committee, you do meet. So it makes you have to get on a phone call maybe once every couple months to discuss what's going on. So I'm going to name off the committees. We're going to have if you're interested, come up and see Matt, all right? I also would like to, any regional directors around? Okay. Iowa Regional Director. So if you guys, I'd like to, next year, I'd like to also break out maybe an hour or so and have the regional directors take over and talk to the states and tribes that belong. Does anybody have any comments of regional directors, anything, concerns? I would really like to throw some more work on the regional directors. All right, I know you guys are like, but yeah, you got any Skip's regional director in Washington?
Greetings, everyone. To Milwaukee's earlier point, we'll look to do, or I'm going to become a member of the Communications Committee, if that's the name of it, and just look at doing regional kind of teams or Zoom meetings, just to kind of brainstorm and share some best practices or things that could be beneficial to everyone.
So I'm gonna resurrect that and get guys working on that, the regional directors. Also, just so you guys know, here's are the committees that we presently have. We have the brand new Communication Committee, and that's the ladies from Virginia and Wisconsin over there, and they're here. So come up, and Matt's on it as well. I think Scott Bowler's on it. We need a couple more people on the Finance Committee. Finance Committee, I think it's every 2 months you get our finance report. And I got to tell you, John Hollingworth from South Carolina had a great idea recently. We said that makes a lot of sense. And we probably should have done that. Basically what it was is how we pay Liddy on a monthly basis. And now what it is the treasurer is sending a a deposit to Lydia. And as you guys all know, we don't pay Lydia much. We pay her $1,200 a month. That's it. So, and with that said, the fees that we charge BoxRec and MMA Registry pays for that plus some. So as you guys know, we pay, for BoxRec, you pay, the promoters pay a total of $15. So $10 of it goes to them and $5 of it goes to us. So with that said, we can do, you know, we can do trainings, and if we go to a small tribe or a small commission and we lose a couple bucks, it's okay. So that's why, you know, we have that $5, I call it a VIG, but everyone gets mad at me because you're not supposed to call it a VIG, but we have that $5 surcharge. And there's some states out there that are not paying it presently. And I would just like to tell you guys, if you're not paying it, you're sitting here and getting everything that everybody else is getting, and the money wouldn't be coming out of your budget anyway. So I would really appreciate it if you could have your promoter start paying that. It's $15 per fight. So the less fights you have, the less the promoters pays. That's on BoxRec. MMA Registry, it's $100, as you guys know, per event, and we get a percentage of that as well. And Chris Palmquist actually does a website. And Virginia and Wisconsin will be talking to him to clean it up and make it better. So, and I know the ladies will be ruthless with him, so that's good. We also have the Boxing Training Committee and the Boxing Rules Committee. And the guy I hate to love and love to hate, Greg Serb, has both of those. So if you want to help Greg, please, and I know he'll make sure you guys speak on a bi-monthly basis because he likes to talk. MMA Training Committee and MMA Rules Committee, that is Andy Foster. And if you guys want to sit on that, you're more than welcome. Also, the Compliance Committee. So we have that Compliance Committee. And I got to tell you, and Greg, you can attest to this, I don't think we had one fighter fight on suspension in boxing this year. Has that ever happened? I mean, it's just amazing. As well as I don't think anyone fought on suspension in MMA Registry as well. So this stuff is working. You know, we are moving forward. We also want to get the kickboxing registry up and running and stuff like that. And just make sure when you clear a fight, check both registries. Because nowadays, a fine example, a guy named Salamita from Massachusetts, he actually fights both. He's a decent MMA fighter, but boy, he sucks as a boxer. You know, he's 0-6, I think, as a boxer, and he's got a winning record as an MMA fighter. But you got to check both. They want him to fight in a couple weeks at my place in boxing, and I said absolutely not. But if I didn't check boxing, I wouldn't know it, you know, so make sure you check both. Okay. Any questions there, comments? I'm really happy we have a good turnout today, all right? So we're going to vote on those two bylaw changes in a couple minutes, but what I would like to do, I'm going to call up a very good friend, and we honored him yesterday, and I got to tell you guys, he does this stuff for free. You know, he doesn't charge us. He's just a passionate boxing guy. I met him back in '96 when he was representing Main Events. So without further ado, I bring up Pat English, and he's going to talk about what's that? Yeah, questions you are afraid to ask.
The whole purpose this morning is a little different than my normal droning on a particular topic. What I'm going to do this morning is primarily, but not exclusively, to answer questions on boxing law. Whatever it may be, whether it's promoters, managers, ratings organizations, which I'll get in trouble on for sure, but I'll answer them and the ABC. So, without further ado, I do have something prepared, and I'm going to ask you to look at a series of slides, and I'm going to ask you to look carefully because it leads into a question that I got from Mike Mazzulli earlier this year. So, the first slide is a slide about a fight in 1750. Jack Broughton, and you should be aware that Jack Broughton was very influential in creating some boxing rules before other people did. But he also got beat in the particular fight where there's an etching. Before I go further, I want to say one thing. The illustrations that I'm about to show you come from a book, The Illustrated History of Boxing, which I very strongly urge you to go out and buy. It's by Nat Fleischer, Sam Andre, both Ring magazine editors, long since dead. This one's updated by Dan Raphael, who is not long since dead. At least as of this morning, because I talked to him 15 minutes ago. You can go on Amazon and get it, and I really think you should. These slides are cool. That's just the way to put it. They're cool. Just take a good look at that slide. Let's see if I can get the next one up. Not here. Would you do the next one? Okay. In 1743, boxing was a pretty popular sport in the private schools of England. You'll see that in this particular slide, the aristocratic young men had what they called then mufflers on their hands. That was only for amateur boxing, and it was so that their perfect visages would not be marred, because after all, who wants to see an aristocrat who has got scars on their face? Except in Heidelberg, that's a little different. Next, please. We've got Bill Darts versus Tom Lyon in 1769. We're going to move up in time. Just take a look at the slide. These are contemporaneous engravings from the newspapers of the time. They didn't have photos. Next, please. Tom Johnson versus Isaac Perrins. Tom Johnson you may have heard of. Got a big guy versus a little guy. Tyson Fury versus just about anybody. Next, please. Again, you're supposed to be looking at the slides because I'm going to come back to things that are in here. 1788, Humphreys versus Mendoza. Oh, he's gone. Maybe a predecessor. But in any case, take a look at the slide and we'll come back. Next, please. This is a French fighter. British champion Tom Cribb versus an American Tom Molyneux. Again, take a look at the slide. Next, please. William Thompson from a guy named Burke in the late 1700s. They were a little rough there. Looks like somebody's grabbing somebody's neck. Next. This is from the Police Gazette. I don't have the year, early 1800s. Next, please. Fighter named Sayers. This is an etching of what happened in the 37th round. Next, please. Thanks. Jim Mace versus Tom Allen. Fight took place in Kennerville, Louisiana. Buddy Abinato probably was there. This takes you up to 1870. Now, we're moving to John L. Sullivan, which we all know of. This is an etching of his fight against John Flood. This is 1881. Again, please take a good look at this slide. And we will move now to the last slide. I think it's the last slide. John L. Sullivan against John Donaldson. John L. Sullivan, of course, was one of the great champions of all time. Is that the last slide? I don't remember. Or do we have a next one? Did you hear me? That's the last one. That's what I thought. Okay. Now, take the slides off. Here's the question for you. This is a interactive process today. What did you notice in terms of the fighters leading up to John L. Sullivan? Did you notice anything different? Okay. Oh, yell out. Oh, I can't hear him. Nope, that's not what I was getting toward. No gloves up to John L. Sullivan. That's what I was getting at. John L. Sullivan, other than the aristocratic amateurs, was really the first boxer who popularized gloves. And you notice that in the two etchings, they were different types of gloves. One was more or less looked like a work glove, and then the next one, it was what we would consider pretty much today a real boxing glove. He didn't like to do a bare knuckle. So, why did I show them to you? Well, this leads into a question that I got from Mike earlier this year. There was a bare knuckle boxing fight in Montana where it was unregulated, there was no commission, and Mike consulted me about it. There were some suspensions that resulted, but that's not what I'm going to go toward. This is not a suggestion one way or the other as to whether your states should allow bare knuckle boxing. That's not the focus of what I'm going toward. But if your states do, the question is it covered under the Muhammad Ali Act? The answer is yes. Because what bare knuckle boxing basically is a throwback. I know that it's not exactly the same as it was in 1881 or 1740, but it is the direct progenitor. Those are the direct progenitors of today's bare knuckle boxing. I did a pretty fair amount of research on this. I know that John McCain, with whom Greg and I both worked, was a boxing historian to some extent. So the same requirements that apply to now traditional boxing, apply to bare knuckle boxing, because it's the same thing gone back 200 years or more. Or at least that's how I ruled. So I would rule again, which means, just to run through this very quickly, if your state allows it, again, this is not a suggestion that your state should allow it, but if your state allows it, all of the requirements of the Muhammad Ali Act, most particularly reporting of the fight, BoxRec may choose to put it on a different page, but they'll have it in. There are crossovers. Some fighters fight bare knuckles, then go back. Bobby Gunn was a pretty good example of it. He went back and forth. But you have to have the contracts, and you have to regulate the bout. You can't do a bout in an unregulated area. They can't do it, whoever's doing it, whoever the promoter is. It has to be regulated by a commission. That's also part of the Muhammad Ali Act. So that's the type of question that I get asked by Mike. And there's an answer. And it gave me a good opportunity to show some pretty cool slides. But having said that as a preamble, we are now going to go into a question and answer section. And I asked a number of people to pre-prepare questions. They haven't told me what they are, and I don't even know if they're still here. But what questions do you have about the law of boxing? And I'll even try a little bit on MMA, although no guarantees on that. Dealing with promoters, regulatory issues, the role of the ABC, anything, it's open across the board. So, I see a hand back there, a tentative hand.
Jay Petrie from SureDog. I have a question as it pertains to bare-knuckle. In a few, excuse me, in a few states so far, bare-knuckle MMA has been regulated and permitted. It's actually included as professional MMA fights on SureDog Fight Finder. What is the stance of the ABC about regulating bare-knuckle MMA matches?
I can't answer. I haven't been asked. I haven't done any research.
That's our answer as well.
Nobody's asked me. And I haven't done any research on it at all. So it's hard for me to give an opinion.
Thank you. So unsanctioned events. Someone was touching yesterday on unsanctioned or amateur events and talking about whether or not states should regulate. Our state does not regulate. We use USA Boxing. But what continually happens is these events are reported to us, and the answer from our agency is, well, we don't regulate that, so we can't do anything about it. But even in the case of unsanctioned events in MMA, which we do regulate, they say there's not really anything that I've seen ever be done. So I'm curious, what have you seen done to stop unsanctioned, maybe other states, unsanctioned events?
Well, New York has taken a pretty strong stance.
Yeah, who's strong is my point.
About basically prosecuting. I don't know your particular laws. Each state's laws are different, but New York has tried to crack down on the fight club type situations, and Kim is standing up right now to
Thanks,
probably
Pat.
address that and maybe ask something yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Kim from New York, and we come across the same type of incidents all the time. The problem lies in where if an entity is not licensed with the Athletic Commission, you basically have no jurisdiction, at least in the state of New York. Like, I'm not too sure what the rest of the country is like, but in the state of New York, when we find out about an unregulated event that is going to be going on, we do a couple of things. First, we reach out to the promoter themselves, if we can get in touch with them. But a lot of these guys do things on like private groups through Facebook, and that's how they advertise and whatnot. So obviously, us being a state regulating entity, we don't always get access to that kind of thing. Number two, what we'll do is call the venue itself. And we let the venue know that there is an illegal event going to be taking place at their facility, and then give them the opportunity to call the promoter and say, guys, you can't do that here, it's gonna be illegal. And then we refer it to the DA. So we gather all the information that we possibly can, we give it to the DA, and they have to take it from there. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot that anybody can do because they're unlicensed. Pardon? Okay.
Most of the venues in every state have a liquor license, and they sell liquor. When I have a smoker in Philadelphia that's not registered, I don't go to the DA, I go to the local police and tell them, and I call my liquor control board. And all they got to do is call that liquor establishment, and the show is gone. Nobody wants to lose their liquor license.
Okay, this is interactive. Come on, come on.
Pat, can I ask you a question? I
No.
100% respect your opinion, but we are recording these fights separately from boxing?
Yeah, there's no requirement that they be on the same page.
Okay.
That's different.
Now, in the
Although
case
it's
of,
some, you know,
of a
that's
title
another-
situation, there is no sanctioning body for this bare-knuckle fighting at the moment.
The Muhammad Ali Act has no relevance to whether there's a sanctioning body or not. It's the reporting that is required.
Gotcha.
I mean, a lot of fights take place without a sanctioning body.
Okay. Yes. Yes, BoxRec, yes. Well, both. Actually, I report to both, the Combat Registry and BoxRec.
Okay. Gustavo, you're late. Stand up and say, I'm late. Do you have any questions, sir? What are they?
Good morning to
I
everyone.
didn't even give him a chance to take a breath.
My first question would be, what remedies or mechanisms would boxing commissions have to determine the accuracy of a purse reported by a fighter in the standard bout agreement filed with the local commission?
Oh, terrific question.
Thank you.
For a major fight, this is not true for the smaller fights, there are typically 2 bout contracts. There's a state form contract, which has whatever the state requires, and the purse on that contract is often different than the purse on the longer contract, which has a ton of additional terms. The state battle contract really isn't suitable for a major fight. You do it because it's required, but it isn't suitable for, say, a Golovkin-Canelo, or pick one of the big ones. There are a myriad of things that have to be in there. But under the Muhammad Ali Act, all contracts relating to a fight are supposed to be filed with the local commission unless the local commission doesn't have a privacy requirement. And if they don't have a privacy requirement, then they get filed with the ABC. Now, if you're asking like a WBO question, you have to ask the local commission whether they have a privacy requirement. There is an exception in the act because, generally speaking, promoters don't want the certain details made public. but they have to be filed. That, in my opinion, is a law which is very often ignored. But my clients do it, right? That's a good question. Next. That's it? That's all you've got? I know he has more.
Another question would be, let's say a fighter is rated at the #1 position in one of the sanctioning bodies, right? The fighter is recognized and designated as a mandatory challenger for the champion. And the champion decides to unify with another champion from another sanctioning body. And the mandatory would then reach an agreement with the champion, let's say a step-aside agreement. My question is, if there's an agreement between the champion and the mandatory challenger, so the mandatory steps aside to let the champion unify with the champion of another sanctioning body, doesn't that agreement for the mandatory relinquishes implicitly his right to enforce his title shot against the champion?
No.
Not necessarily?
Because typically in the contract that calls for the step aside, says that the next fight will be against.
But what happens to the fighter that it's rated under the mandatory challenger, who
Excellent
also
question.
has a property right?
Excellent question. Having done, and I don't like step-aside agreements. I hate them. Absolutely hate them. But I've done them. What happens to the fighter who's arguably got rights below? Probably depends on the specific circumstances. Let's take the IBF as an example. Maybe they don't care. The fighter below for the IBF, so you know, has fought in an eliminator. And under their rules, he has the right, he's the mandatory, having won the eliminator. If they don't care, and they're willing to go along with it, I wouldn't think that there's a problem. If the fighter wants to create an issue of it, there is a case called Duva versus WBA that says if you're in a line, put it in the most simple way, if you're in line and somebody steps out of line, such as what you're talking about, you've got rights. Often that's dealt with contractually. So somebody has to assert their rights, however. It's not an automatic thing. And it all depends on what's filed, not who's filing it, but the individual circumstances of the situation. Now, a unification fight. There used to be honor among the organizations where there was a sequence. So that the longest running mandatory would come next if there was conflicting mandatories. Does everybody know what a mandatory is? Hello, raise your hand if you don't know. Okay, so everybody knows what a mandatory is. A mandatory is where, almost everybody, a mandatory is where the fighter has worked their way up the rankings and they're supposed to get the next title fight. There's supposed to be a rotation system. Somebody's going to go to court. I did in, again, the Dua versus WBA, which was, you probably remember the year, like 86, something like that. Long time ago, and the ratings organizations have pretty much forgotten about it. Right now, there is a significant problem with the WBA not honoring the rotation system. They were the defendant in the original Wasdua versus WBA. It's a published case. One thing I noted yesterday in Mauricio's talk, and also then later when Dwayne spoke, they mentioned the IBF, they mentioned the WBO, but they conspicuously failed to mention the WBA. The WBA at this point is an outlier in terms of honoring that sort of thing. Outlier is a very nice term for somebody who doesn't give a shit. Obviously, I'm not in favor of their activities. Okay, who's next? Going once. Oh, we have another one.
Let's say a fighter is suspended in California, right? For administrative suspension, 60 days.
Okay.
And the fighter wishes to pursue another immediate bout in another state, and that state is not a member of the ABC. What's this?
The federal law. First of all, an administrative suspension is rather rare. Almost always it's medical. For a medical suspension, doesn't matter whether the state's a member of the ABC or not a member of the ABC, they're required to honor it. I don't know that any, give me an example of why somebody's suspended administratively. That's not it. That's a medical. Bullshit. That's medical. Yeah. No. There's an appeals process for administrative. Yeah. I'll explain what he's talking about.
Pat, my question also...
well, let me finish.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For medical suspensions, they're ironclad. Because there were some suspensions at the time the Muhammad Ali Act was drafted that seemed arbitrary and capricious, that were administrative suspensions, there's an appeal process to the ABC. I'm unaware that that's been used in years and years and years.
You could also say a fine for unsportsmanlike conduct administrative.
Yes.
And I hear everybody, all commissioners, as we all probably know, 99% of us, administrative suspensions are considered a suspension period, and no one usually steps on anyone's toes and oversees it. Now, we do say, okay, the guy owes $1,500, he only can afford $200, send $200 in, and then we continue the administrative suspension until the fine is paid off. Of course, we want the kid to fight and make money.
I don't know what they're doing. Okay. Administrative suspensions are handled differently than medical.
We agreed every suspension is upheld, whether it's medical or administrative. Somebody comes to Arizona and badmouths the Arizona or says something bad to his referee, and he puts him on suspension administratively, he's not fighting in PA. He's not fighting in PA. That young man or young woman has to learn that lesson. The administrative suspensions under the federal law, you are allowed to do it. All you have to do is notify the suspending commission. Hey, I'm letting that kid fight. I'm just telling them, that's all you got to do. But we agreed about 3 or 4 years ago, and a suspension is a suspension. He doesn't fight.
That's subject to the right of appeal. There's a process. But nobody's ever done it, to the best of my knowledge. Well, not yet.
Greg, and this certainly isn't against anything that you said. We agree that we all withhold or uphold all suspensions. The problem is, if the fighter challenges that, you don't have a leg to stand on. If I'm met with a fighter who's got an administrative suspension from Nevada, and he comes, I have no jurisdiction to uphold that suspension. I can do it.
We're talking about administrative. You're talking
Administrative, absolutely. I can do it, and I can say, no, you're not fighting here, you're under administrative suspension. However, if that fighter does take that to court and challenge me on that, I'm going to lose every
No, you won't.
single
And I'll
time.
tell you why. Because they have a remedy. That's the appeals procedure to the ABC. I can think of situations where the ABC would not uphold, well, this is the Billy Lyon rule, why the ABC would not uphold an administrative suspension. They have to exhaust their administrative remedies first.
Right, and I agree with that.
But he has to go to the ABC first under federal guidelines.
My other question would be, there are commissions that announce the officials that will be working, for example, a title fight. The weigh-in takes place on Friday, the fight is scheduled for Saturday, but the officials are announced on Friday in the afternoon. What happens if one of the parties related to that bout has an objection to one of the officials? How does the affected participant would raise his concern to that appointment within a 24-hour time frame?
Well, you immediately go to the commissioner. You explain why there is an objection. Oh, that's the uncle of my opponent. I've seen all kinds of strange things. And the commissioner makes a determination. That's the only remedy you've got. Mm-hmm. And hopefully the commissioner will act reasonably.
I think you also have to understand that the sooner you provide a list to the commissions requesting certain officials, like I get that all the time, and a lot of my officials are also sanctioned by, work with certain sanction bodies, and I pick those officials. So the sooner you get the list into the commission a month, 2 months, 3 months out, because you know where your titles are going to be, the sooner we address it and we pick the officials. So I never have that issue. I don't know about anybody else. Kim, you want to discuss that? I never have that issue when a problem because they're already appointed a month before.
Yeah, it's not, well, I don't know if you're talking about title fights, but for a title fight, it's really get your suggestions to the fighters, I'm speaking to the commissions, earlier than the day before the fight.
Right. So typically what we do is we will send out our list of officials that we have chosen confidentially to the promoter. The promoter then can send those names to both camps. We try to preempt anything before we get to fight day or even weigh-in day, because by the time you get to weigh-in day, you're far too busy to be dealing with stuff like that. So we try to preempt all of that, provide them with the names, give them the opportunity. They have to object within 3 days after we send it to them. If they don't object, our scheduled officials are who are doing the fight.
I'm going to give you an example where that we knew who the officials were well early. I represented Evander Holyfield through main events. Holyfield versus Tyson 2, the famous earbite fight. Immediately before the fight, not long before the fight, Tyson objected to Mitch Halpern, the late Mitch Halpern. It's also, by the way, in Mark's book, being the referee. I do not recall the grounds, and it was frankly not. They weren't meritorious grounds. There was a full hearing before the commission. I remember it was in a hall like this. A lot of people were there. The commission rejected the request that Mitch Halpern be removed. Mitch Halpern subsequently said, I don't want to be the focus of this, and removed himself, which was totally his choice. A tough referee, Mills Lane, was put in his place, and then whatever happened after that, the ear bite, is history. Disqualification to Tyson.
Hello? Oh, sorry. This is directed to Kim and New York State Athletic Commission Director. Kim, I'm from New York. I'm a follower for a long time. Years ago, it was policy in New York State to never announce the name of the referee and the judges until the night of the fight. Today, they are, in all jurisdictions, it's known. The other thing that is of concern to me is the fraternization that goes on between the judges, the referee, and the sanctioning organizations. We've all heard stories of the night before the fight. Don King, or whatever, has dinner with the judges and the referee.
Jose did that before Meldrick Taylor Chavez.
I'm sorry?
Jose Suleiman did that before Meldrick Taylor Chavez.
Right, right. It's on record. And this creates a tremendous conflict of interest, whether it's innocent or not, and I don't believe it's innocent. But don't you feel it would be in the interest of boxing's integrity to go back to that system where announcing, which was in place for 40 years, and it only stopped because of the influence of the sanctioning organizations. The other thing that concerns me is the referees, not in New York State, I'll give credit, not in New York State, they wear the New York State emblem on their shirts. But I've seen referees where they have the WBA emblem on their shirt, WBO emblem on it, IBF. I believe that's wrong. And I was wondering if you could address that.
I completely agree with you that that's wrong to wear any other emblem. When we hire an official, that official works for the commission, and you are dedicated to the commission. You do not work for the fighters. You do not work for the sanctioning body. You answer only to the commission. So yes, we're very strict in New York, where we don't permit our referees or our judges even to talk with the sanctioning bodies. We don't permit that whatsoever. When I talked about releasing the names of the officials, we absolutely do not do that publicly. That is released only to the involved parties so that they have an opportunity to object. And that's why I said we release the names confidentially. We don't publicize that. We don't publicize who's doing that fight or who's officiating that fight until the night of the fight. So yes, your concerns are our concerns as well. And again, we are very strict in New York with that. So, you know, I don't know how much more I can alleviate, you know, concerns that way.
Well, ABC can't direct. The ABC cannot legally direct a commission to do that, but they can make a recommendation, and that's totally up to the body, and it's really a question more for Mike than me.
If you don't mind me saying so, you're almost confusing the Association of Boxing Commissions as an overarching regulating agency, but they're not. They're a conglomeration of folks who all do the same job. We meet together. Yes, we're required to be here by federal law, but it doesn't give the ABC authority over state jurisdiction, right? So yes, these are concerns that live in our industry. These are things that we think about all the time. In the larger states, I think that you see that strictness more than you would in the smaller states. And that's not for, you know, criticism. It's just that we're hyper-focused on these kinds of things because we get the larger fights. So we have to be hyper-focused, where a lot of these smaller commissions or smaller jurisdictions don't get those large-scale fights. So it's not as prevalent as it would be in a large fight or a large state.
Yeah, I'm responding sort of to your question. I've done 131 world title fights since I've been executive officer, and hundreds of regionals. And my suggestion to the membership is I think it's important to let the public know who the officials are. I think it's not transparent to show up on the day of the fight and then have the media be able to come bash the commission after the fact. Richard DeCure's sitting right there. I bet me and him's done 30 world title fights together. Every time we sit down and go over the officials, it's what we do. He represents the WBO. Used to have my job. He knows the deal. We know how to keep it separate. He submits a list of people. They have some skin in the game. I don't want to take all that and say, no, California is going to shove this down your throat. Your fighters have came up through the WBO, but we're going to make you take these officials. Dwayne Ford, he represents the WBC, used to chair the Nevada Commission. There's not a better person in the world to sit down and talk about officials with. Lindsay, I don't think Lindsay's still here, but Lindsay used to do the IBF. We used to have that same dialogue with the IBF. Never really had that with the WBA, but with 3 of the 4, I've had some dialogue. But as soon as I get the officials named, I don't go out and make a press release about it, but a lot of times people want to know. If they want to know, I will tell them who the officials are. I think that's important for a lot of reasons. I do the same thing Kim does. If they don't like it, I send out the objections. I've came back with Richard many times, but Dwayne, hey, so-and-so's objected to this person. Doesn't have to be, as Pat uses the term, a merit objection. This is a true story. I literally had a guy, Robert Diaz from Golden Boy, he's the matchmaker for Golden Boy. They objected because of a Facebook picture that was on somebody's Facebook from 11 years ago. Yeah. 11 years ago, they objected to a judge. Okay? So, I mean, what do you do with that? You take the person off and you save them for another fight. My suggestion is to try to make as many people get some skin in this game as possible, because what happens is, you remember that thing in Minnesota? It was up in Matt's deal, and they came recommended or whatever. But then it came out after that there was some issues with the judge or whatever. This is another thing. There was this fight in Texas, and it's no problem because they recommended or whatever. But then after the fact, they went and suspended their own judge because of a bad decision. Suspend yourself. Don't make any recommendations and get out of this business if you keep giving us bad officials. You shouldn't be ranking fighters if you can't do it. So anyway, Richard's really good. If you guys work with him on the WBO side, Dwayne's on the WBC side. Daryl's now doing it some with the IBF side. But my suggestion is just work with the people if they come to your state. Transparency is important. And as far as the media is concerned, if the media wants to sit in my meetings going over the officials, they're more than welcome to.
Okay, I'm just about out of time. One more question, if there is one more question. Going once, going twice. Thanks for being here.
I find it really interesting because this kind of talk is very uncomfortable. People are very uncomfortable. States and tribes do it differently, just a little bit in each jurisdiction. And I think that's why we're here, is to see how other jurisdictions do it. I want to thank Pat because Pat works so hard for the ABC and he does it for free. He does it for free. All right, next up, we're going to go to Andy Foster, and we're going to vote on the 2 rule changes for MMA. Mr. Foster. Is Cowboy around to do a roll? Yeah, do you have the roll? I hope everyone in the last 2 days has spoken to other voting members and determined what is the best for your commission. That's why we talked about it at the very beginning of the conference, and that's why we're voting on it now. All right, so we shouldn't have much talk or arguments like we always seem to go to. We should have already hashed that all out. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm fine with it.
Oh, we'll just read it then.
Okay.
This, well, this is why we did this.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, there was a lot of talk about the neoprene sleeve rule, which I thought there was going to be talk about the other one. But Dave Hagan and the guys came up with what they feel like is a better amendment. Doesn't do anything substantive, I think, to the thing. It just makes it a little bit more clear. And they came up with a competitor may use soft neoprene type sleeves to cover only the knee or ankle joints. Approved sleeves may not have padding, Velcro, plastic, metal, ties, or any materials considered to be unsafe or that may create an unfair advantage. The neoprene sleeves are not considered equipment or clothing and may not be grabbed advantageously inside or as clothing can be grabbed by self. Tape and gauze or any materials other than the approved sleeves are not permitted on the lower body. The sleeves must be black in color with the exception of matching the athlete's commission assigned corners with the sleeves being blue or red or color as appropriate. Okay. Corey, you're a rules guy. You got any thoughts on that? Jeff, you okay with that? All right. And then we've already talked about the other one. I just want to, I hate to pick on Jeff, but ever since the Apex Center, Jeff has like 40 UFC events a year, so I'm wanting to ask about the eye poke thing, because guys, I know we haven't talked about that eye poke thing, but that's a substantive change to the way we do things. That's the change this year. This neoprene sleeve thing is helpful, and we're glad, but we're already doing that. This other thing we're not already doing. You good with that? All right, yeah. I think that's Greg, you good with that? You do a lot of fights. I agree with that, and you know, now there was a question that got brought up, and I want to have a discussion with the membership about it, especially you two. It's a question that what if a guy's faking the eye injury? Well, if they put it up on the replay, can't we see that pretty quick? Yeah. I've never seen somebody fake an eye injury. I've never seen that before. So anyway, that question. So those are the two changes this year. Dave will be able to provide the language. I've got it as well here. He emailed it. But those are the two changes this year to the unified rules of mixed martial arts. One's rather non-substantive. The other's a substantive change. Where's Mike? All right, Mike. How does Cowboy do the? Okay.
All right. So once there is a motion on the floor,
it will be open for discussion and debate by the ABC members. We have 37 ABC members here, voting members by my count. So once we have a motion, then that's the way it'll work. Do we have a motion to adopt the neoprene sleeve rule officially to the unified rules? We have Mr. Shipman has moved it. Do we have a second? Mr. Reno has seconded. Is there any discussion on the neoprene sleeve rule proposal? Yes, Kim.
My only concern that was actually brought up by Todd is just making sure that there is additional language, at least somewhere, that the athlete can't grab their own sleeve. So, you know, if you're tied up on the ground and me grabbing my own ankle sleeve, making sure that I can, you know, get a good grip. We just want to make sure that there was language like that elsewhere. I know that there's language that you can't grab your own shorts and stuff like that, but...
You can grab your own shorts.
What's that? Right.
Here, you want to take... Okay. Mr. Foster would like to be recognized.
No, I'm you're a lawyer.
So here's the language I've been asked to read. The neoprene sleeves are not considered equipment or clothing and may not be grabbed advantageously inside or as clothing can be grabbed by self. Very good. Any other discussion? Anyone else want to be recognized for comments or discussion, debate at this time before we go to vote? Seeing no further discussion, we will move to a vote. We will start with a voice vote. All in favor of the neoprene sleeve rule as presented, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, the rule has passed. We'll move on to the next rule, which is the eye poke rule, providing 5 minutes for recovery from an eye poke. Is there a motion to adopt the eye poke rule into the unified rules? We have Mr. Serb from Pennsylvania has... Oh.
When we're talking about that, if I have my palm open and I come in and I hit your eye with a palm open, that's a strike and not an eye poke. Just so that would be a strike, correct? It has to be the finger. It has to be the finger. Okay.
All right. Now, is there? Did you move to adopt the rule? Yes. Mr. Serb moves to adopt it. We have a second from Mazzulli. Any discussion? Any discussion on adopting the eye poke rule as drafted to the unified rules? I'm seeing no discussion here, so we will move to a voice vote. All in favor of adopting the eye poke rule to the unified rules signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. The eye poke rule has passed. Unanimous.
Nice job. Thank you, sir. Nice job. Andrew? Again, if you want to have a voice when it comes to voting members and you want to sit on a committee, that's the committee MMA rules and training Andy has. So don't come up to me and say, no one invited me on these committees. I'm inviting you on them right now. And every time I sit up here and every year I sit here, I ask for more, you know what I mean, participation. You know, and I want to thank Bonnie as well as Mary from Wisconsin, and I'm going to keep plugging them, from Wisconsin and Virginia, for sitting on the communication committee. So, all right. I really need to get some glasses. Let's roll. All right, next up, Bare-knuckle Committee report updates from Brian Dunn.
All right. First of all, I'd like to apologize. I got a little behind, and so I wasn't able to print any documents. So I'm actually going to read our recommendation off my phone. But this committee is, what? Yeah, it's recommendations. If your state or tribe begins to regulate bare knuckle fighting, these are our rule recommendations. We had several promotions involved in the committee. And so some promotions do 2-minute rounds, some promotions do 3-minute rounds. The doctors on the committee seem to think that as 3 minutes was the maximum we should allow. So the only recommendation I'm going to offer in the round length is 3 minutes maximum. The same doctors also agreed that 15 minutes. I saw it. I don't know. Come on up here. This is Dr. Durkin, was also on the committee with me. So it was 3 minutes maximum per round, with a total fight being 15 minutes. Obviously, there have been a few rogue promotions that started off that the recommendation of the committee is just that it be in an enclosure, whether it be cage, ring, just not an open platform that was done. So enclosure, we recommend the fights happen in an enclosure. Also, like MMA, our recommendation is that fingers not be allowed to extend towards the fighter's eyes. You know, the hand must be closed, or palm up or palm down, just like MMA. We agreed that hammer fists should be allowed, but spinning back fists not allowed. The thought being that a spinning back fist has a pretty good opportunity to land, not with a knuckle, but elsewhere in the arm. So we're recommending that the hammer fists are allowed, spinning back fists are not allowed. In the bare knuckle fighting, the fighters are allowed to clinch as long as the clinch is active. So if I hold your head and I'm striking, that I can strike as long as I want, as long as punches are happening. Once I stop punching, or my opponent stops punching, the referee will split us and start over. We also agreed, actually, we agreed with Andy's recommendation for MMA for the 5 minutes for an eye poke. Same with the groin strike, 5 minutes. We agreed on a mandatory 2-point deduction for a second eye poke in the same fight. We thought that was pretty important. Yes. Agree. Agree. Totally agree. Yes. We thought that the bouts should be official when the majority of the rounds. So if it's 5 rounds, at 3 rounds, the bout is official, and you go to the scorecards. What am I missing, Dr. Durkin? Also, the doctors were concerned that fighters should only be allowed to compete in 1 bare knuckle fight per night. Not a tournaments would not be allowed in this sport. What else do I need, Dr. Durkin? Hit me up. Yeah, no, just catch me up. Well, I didn't necessarily agree, but there's nothing wrong with it. But they agreed, the committee wanted Superman punches to be allowed in the bare knuckle fighting. Me personally, I thought that the Superman punch is a for a fake of a kick, which wouldn't be effective in a bear. But leaving the surface of the mat to land a strike would be allowed. So the Superman punch would be allowed in bare knuckle.
And with the caveat that individual promotions can limit what they do.
So individual promotions limit what they want to do in that regard.
Yeah. If you're a promotion that doesn't like the idea of Superman punches or hammer fists, you don't necessarily need to incorporate them. But our recommendation is there's no reason not to in the sport. So we've got fighter may not be saved by the bell.
Oh, yep, absolutely. Fighter may not be saved by the bell in any round. Also, we agreed no 3 knockdown rule. Leave that to the referee's discretion.
So if they can't continue as a result of the groin strike, they shall not be deemed the loser of the fight based on the fact.
Again, if an athlete is hurt by a groin strike and cannot continue, they would not be deemed the loser of the bout.
And bouts will be considered official when a majority of the scheduled rounds.
Yep, again, the bouts are considered official, the majority of the rounds, 3 of 5. And I've got a list of fouls that is coming, so I will send that out to everybody. If anyone's interested in that, I will send you the complete list of fouls. Okay? What else do we got?
That was the whole list.
All right, that's all we got, folks. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's see what we. Oh, is there any questions? I'm sorry. Is there any questions? All right, great.
Question back there? The voting members are going to go to a vote, a verbal vote, and Cowboy will take care of it. These are all recommendations, remember, guys. These are recommendations.
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
I studied bare knuckles very heavily. It's a primitive form of pro boxing, and I just want to know if there's somewhere where I could reference the rules, how to establish the promotion properly.
I'm sorry. I could.
If there's a reference like online where I could look up the rules.
You know what? I'll get this list added to the ABC website, and then it'll be there.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so the committee's put in some time trying to come up with some unified rules for the bare knuckle. They've gone over them with you here this morning. I think what the committee would like to see happen is have the body vote on adopting the recommendations from the committee as a set of unified rules for bare knuckle fighting. Do we have a motion to adopt the Rules Committee's suggestions? Yes, over here. So moved. Do we have a second? Mr. Shipman seconds. Do we have any discussion by ABC members on this? Skip, you want to?
Yeah, no discussion, that's a friendly comment. If we could have them posted so we could see them, I mean, obviously you're reading them, but it's always good to have the visual of it as well, that's all.
Yeah, I said I'll get it posted on the ABC website.
When will that be done, Mr. Dunn?
Within a week.
Within a week.
Within 1 week, that'll be posted up. But what you're voting on is to adopt the rules that were, as unified rules that were described to you here this morning. Any further discussion, comments, or debate? I am seeing no further discussion, comments, or debate, so we can move to a voice vote unless there is a desire to have a roll call vote. Seeing no one asking for a roll call vote, we're going to move to a voice vote. The motion is properly on the floor to adopt the rules communicated here this morning as the unified rules for bare knuckle. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All opposed, the same sign. I hear no ayes. The motion passes unanimously. I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, do we have a list of the commissions that are, regulating bare knuckle?
I don't have a list. Off the top of my head, I know Kansas. Skip asked if there's a list of commissions that are regulating bare knuckle. I'm doing it in my state, Nebraska. Seneca does it. I know Mississippi and Kansas for sure. Florida is the king of bare knuckle. Those are the states that I know for sure, but there may be more.
If anyone would like to be noted on the official record here as abstaining, you can come get with the recording secretary and list your state as abstaining. You don't have to do it now, but that is something you can do if you'd like to.
Okay.
All right, the vote is
wait,
passed.
I wanted to just quickly say on that question of who does it, that's exactly the kind of thing that we're going to do, is reach out and find out. So please, be forthcoming when we can reach out and ask everyone, what do you do in your states? We can consolidate that information and make it readily available.
Next up, hey guys, I have to really thank you. I'm extremely happy with the number of individuals that are here on a Wednesday morning. Usually we had the dinner Wednesday night and everybody would be gone Wednesday morning and we'd have nobody at the dinner. So I think the Tuesday works really well with the dinner. So this is awesome. Okay, next up, I have to say this is the most nicest gentleman I've ever dealt with in any sport, anywhere. But he's an attorney, too, so that scares me a little bit. But with no further ado, John Duggan from the WBO. John is an encyclopedia on boxing, and he is just a great guy. So, John.
Yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Duggan. I'm the first vice president of the WBO. I've been with them since 1996, and I'm here with Richard DeCure, who is our member of our championship committee and our North America Boxing Organization chairman, and Gustavo Oliveri, who is our in-house general counsel. First, we'd like to again offer our sincere congratulations to the ABC founders who were honored last night through their fidelity, integrity, and service. They have bestowed great honor upon themselves and upon the Association of Boxing Commissions. I enjoyed Mauricio's list of boxing movies, and I thought he got some of them, but he forgot really the most important, which was The Quiet Man. And The Quiet Man with John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara, and Victor McLaughlin. The reason I think that's one of the great movies that nobody knows about is that Victor McLaughlin was a Commonwealth heavyweight boxing champion, and he won the Lonsdale belt, and it's on display at the British Boxing Board of Control in Cardiff, Wales. So you should check that out if you like boxing movies. Anyway, I would also like to greet our friends and colleagues, both new and old. I've been coming to the ABC convention for about 20 years, and it's getting unbelievably bigger. The level of competence and organization and preparation is getting increasingly impressive. Your collection of medical information, of best practices, it's truly a service to the sport of boxing, and it's greatly improved it administratively and safety-wise. Since we have so many new people, we'd like to again reiterate what a sanctioning body is. The WBO is a not-for-profit, non-governmental organization, and we have two basic functions in boxing. We're not in the business of boxing. We provide a service to the business of boxing. We rate boxers and we sanction championships. To some extent, we license promoters, only to the extent that we investigate and have standards for their financial capabilities to participate in a purse bid. Our membership is the national boxing commissions of our member nations. Of course, in America, we, American commissions aren't authorized to be on sanctioning organizations. We try to relate to American host commissions identically to the way we relate to our other member commissions, and that is that, and additionally, we try to act as a conduit of information among national commissions. We will be able to propagate quite a bit of your information to the national commissions at our convention, and we appreciate your assistance and cooperation in that process. Now, Gustavo and my major contribution to the WBO is to continuously and vigilantly remind us the limits of the organization of our authority and responsibility. Just because something has to be done doesn't mean we should do it. We try to restrict our participation in a boxing event to that which relates to our function and mission. We don't want to do what our members do, and we want to have a bright line of authority and responsibility so that things don't fall through the cracks. People think, well, you're doing it, I don't have to. We know what we have to do, and we appreciate your collegial and cooperative assistance in getting that accomplished. We send a WBO representative to each championship event, and they have a limited function, but we appreciate your cooperation in allowing that to be accomplished. The first part of our function is to verify the weights. Obviously, the host commission conducts the weigh-in. What we do is our representative has to verify that the weight has been accomplished. For instance, weight makes champions, and we do not allow our champions to have an agreement. For instance, they can't waive the weight. To participate and to win a championship, you have to make the weight. So our representative has to personally verify the weight has been accomplished at the scale, and we appreciate your cooperation in getting that done. The next thing that we do is participate in the rules reading ceremony. We see a lot of people think that, well, these are all professionals, they should know the rules. But we find that a world championship event or even a regional championship event requires, the rules to be read in their entirety and have general discussion of them. There's an important function of that, and one of the other things we like to do, and we'd recommend that some of you host commissions adopt this, is that we like to have the referee present the rules. Why is that? Because we're trying to elevate the referee as the sole arbiter of the bout. His leadership starts early in the process. The boxers are never a problem. It's always the manager and the trainer that's the referee's problem. And if he can establish his authority on the rules early, we feel that's helpful. We've tried that all over the world, and it's very successful. I know some commissions don't allow the referee to even come to the rules meeting or the weigh-in, and I understand. They have, like for instance, Nevada has overwhelming concerns about the gambling industry and appearances of involvement between the promoter and the referee, or the boxers and the referee. So they might have their reasons for not allowing that peculiar or to their situations. But as far as conducting the boxing match successfully, there's a lot to be recommended for that process. At the event, our representative has to verify You know, we are not responsible for supervising the event in any way. We're only responsible for supervising the award of our championship. And to do that, we traditionally have participated in keeping a parallel score sheet with the host commission. The host commission score sheet is the official record of the event. It's always retained by the host commission, as are the judging slips. If there's a controversy or a dispute, we have always had cooperation of our host commissions to get copies of the judging slips if that's necessary for an appeal. Also, the sanctioning body representative enters the ring before the event to receive the champion's belt as the symbol of the championship. And that signifies that the championship is in contest. There's no champion in the ring during a championship contest. They're both exactly equal in the ring. And next function of the WBO representative is to enter the ring and award the championship to the new champion. If the championship, if the challenger wins the championship, another responsibility we have is to retrieve the champion's belt and give it back to him after the press conference. And then he gets a new belt. I'd also like to express personally that I envy all of you. You know, you get to work in boxing every day of your life. You know, I have to work full time to be able to participate in boxing as an avocation. And, so I compliment you on that choice of careers. Is there any questions about the WBO or about the function of a sanctioning body at a championship event? Well, thank you so much. I'd also like to invite my colleague, Gustavo Olivares, up, and he has an announcement to make as well.
Good morning, everyone. Mike, first and foremost, congrats to you and all of your personnel, Miss Lydia, for a great job and a great convention. Thank you for having us. And I echo John's words. Very quick, the WBO would like to make a contribution for the retired fund. I believe the amount collected was $5,803, so the WBO will be making that contribution on its behalf. So thank you, everyone. Pat, thanks again. Sorry I bother you for the questions, but it's always a privilege learning from one of the greats. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. As years go on, I've been doing this for 26 years, and I think the relationships have to move to the next level as well. Now, the Muhammad Ali Act was formed because of what was occurring with Don King and all this other crazy stuff. Now everyone understands that we all work together for the betterment of the sport, boxing and MMA. And the charitable fund's a huge part of making sport just a little bit easier for our fighters. You know, because at the end of the day, we're here because they're fighting, right? We wouldn't have jobs if it wasn't for the fighters. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank everybody else that participated last night. The amount of money we made in the, I ran around and got these gloves. Jeff Mullen helped out in Nevada for Nunes. Andy helped out for Tyson Fury. So we all worked together, and it was just amazing that we brought in $11,000 during that auction. It was just great. And last year we gave away, I think, ended up with like $7,000. So, you know, it's not a lot of money, but it does change fighters' lives that are retired. So, okay, next up. Next up is the details on the officials' training, novice and advanced. And with that said, I want to bring up one. I got to tell you, Andy and I rate all these officials all over the world. And I'm going to plug this guy because he's one of my guys. Brian Miner has been working for us, for me for 24 years in the MMA. He started out as a kickboxing judge and referee for me. So I just wanted Brian to come up and explain what we did this year in the MMA aspect of the training with the two different levels. And we plan on doing it next year for the for the boxing as well. So Brian Miner from Mohegan, thank you.
How's it going? Wasn't really expecting to talk. I was kind of on my way out the door for the nice little 6-hour drive home. But Mike asked me to come up and explain what happened over this weekend with the training. We actually split the referee training up into 2 classes, kind of a novice class and an advanced class. The novice class went over what it's like to become a referee, all that information. We have a couple of media guys still here that are actually in that class. And if you ask them, and I would suggest you go talk to them, they actually learned a lot about what it takes to become a referee. In the advanced class, we talked about stuff that's happened throughout the years. Some stuff that's gone over really well with referees, some stuff we might have messed up on. Maybe nothing that you would notice, but as a referee, we notice it. So to have those 2 classes, and it worked out pretty perfectly, to be honest with you, because as a referee for many years, I don't really need to sit there and go over how to check the cage, how to do greasing. You know, that type of stuff's the novice stuff. I want to go over the hard calls that were made. I want to go over the stuff that was done right, what was done wrong, how do we correct those things. You know, this is how we continue our learning, right? So from an official standpoint, it ended up working out really well. The training was done by Kevin McDonald for the advanced class, and Blake Grice and Jeremy Villel took care of the novice class. And I think everybody did a fantastic job with it. Sunday's judging class, it was the typical judging class, right? So we had novice and advanced judges in that class, and we kind of talked about some hard scores, what it's like to put in a 10-8, a 10-7, what it's like to actually sit in that chair and put your name on a scorecard that is now going to be blasted, you know, throughout the media and throughout the world. Your name is attached to that, so we want to tell people what that's like. If going forward, I think if you talk to any officials, even the media, and some of the commissioners that went, I think this is the model that we need to continue with. Split the training up into 2 different days or 2 different classes, and it'll be more beneficial going forward. Any questions? No? Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
Again, I think a lot of people in this audience feel like we just randomly pick officials. And I can tell you, we don't randomly pick officials. We pick officials that are the best. And in MMA and boxing, I have a spreadsheet I got every fight that I've regulated or every fight that I've been to in a pile on my desk. And I've never even counted them. But I check every official out. We call, we make sure we do our due diligence. So with that said, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back. We'll finish it up. We'll probably be out of here by noon. So thank you very much, guys. Give us about 10 minutes. Oh, one more thing. I almost forgot. Cowboy was up here. I just want to clarify on the record that bare-knuckle rules are not ratified. They are all recommendations. They are recommendations, okay, guys? Some of you may have been confused. They are recommendations at this point. All right? So they are not rules adopted. They're recommendations. Did I clarify enough? Thanks. We'll see you in a couple minutes. 10 seconds. Seconds out. Seconds out. Don't touch her. Don't you dare touch her. Okay, guys, let's go. Please. All right. We're thinning out a little bit. We'll be done probably within an hour, so we'll get out of here really early. One thing I would like to do while we're here is we were in the process of negotiating with BoxRec, and we've come to an agreement on it. And I would like to go to the body to make sure everyone's okay with us re-signing with BoxRec. So I'm going to have Andy do the honors when it comes to... no, Matt, will you come up here and please do the honors with the vote on BoxRec?
All right, so we're going to vote on that the contract with BoxRec has been renegotiated, or excuse me, negotiated, and that we're going to re-sign. So do I have a motion to renew with BoxRec? Who's Ernie? Do I have a second? Who's that back there? Arizona. Sorry, still trying to learn everybody's names here. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Write that down. That contract renews for 2 years, but we can get out of it when we like. It's open-ended. All right. All right. Next up, a lot of you guys out there probably realize how passionate I am about ethics and policies and officials doing the right thing when it comes to social media and pictures, and I've released many referees in MMA and boxing as well as inspectors that I see taking pictures back of the house and posting stuff. And so Haskell Alexander one day, which is from Chickasaw Nation, come up Haskell, put together, this is a very brief, not a fan, and it's funny because you say Jesus makes common sense, but I can guarantee you the young kids don't realize it. I think there's a big disconnect between MMA and boxing officials. The boxing officials understand it. I usually never have any problem with the boxing officials. The MMA officials or inspectors, it's a complete different story. So Haskell put this little quick PowerPoint together, and I think it just makes a lot of sense. So I asked him this year to come up and speak about it. And here he is, Haskell Alexander from Chickasaw Nation.
Thank you, Mike. Mike was a little stretching it a little bit there. First of all, when he told me about this, let's be honest, you didn't tell me about this.
I didn't tell you about doing it.
And
I put him on the agenda without telling him.
As I'm going to first, I want to tell you a little bit of a history about the Chickasaw Nation. Now we've been doing this for probably about 12 years, and you know, one of our casinos actually had a couple of events, MMA events, and the state of Oklahoma suspended all the fighters because it was a non-sanctioned event, which and right they should have done anyway, and I applaud them for that. Well, I'm the deputy gaming commissioner for the Chickasaw Nation, and I've been a deputy gaming commissioner for since '96, so around 26 years I've been a gaming regulator. Well, in 2008, this is when this happened, and So since that time, our governor said that, hey, we're not going to be able to, if this is something we can do ourselves, let's go out and start regulating ourselves, or do we need a compact with the state of Oklahoma to actually come in and regulate our events for us? And he said, basically, he said, hey, guys, we have plenty of compacts already with the state of Oklahoma. We already have the tobacco. We have a lot of different compacts there. So why don't we do this ourselves? So for 2 years, the state of Texas, the state of Oklahoma, Missouri, several other states allowed us to come and shadow. Before we did this 2 years before we even started ourselves. So by the time we started regulating, our first, I think it was a top rank event, we learned a lot that first event. But we, like I said, we shadowed other states and other jurisdictions for 2 years before we actually did our first one. So that was very, very helpful. And one thing, as a regulator, everything's got to be in black and white. So when it comes to code of conduct, these are some things I think we have to follow. We have to be very serious about it, especially when it comes to our staff. Now, Mike said, this presentation isn't really mine. It's sort of both of ours in a way, but he put it together. One of his staff did. And 2 years ago, no, maybe a little bit longer than that, Mike and I were a part of a tribal organization called Tribal Protection Network. So we went around the country trying to help other tribes to develop their own commissions and how to regulate them. Because there's one thing we didn't want is one tribe actually not knowing anything about regulating combative sports. So we wanted to educate them, and that's what Mike and I did. And this presentation is part of that. Actually, we used to do some training at WinStar World Casino. We used to invite a lot of the tribes to come in and basically discuss regulations. We took a lot of different regulations, and as a Chickasaw employee, actually I've been employed with the Chickasaw Nation for 43 years. I was a young kid when I started, and so I'm very serious when it comes to regulating and protecting our tribal sovereignty. And so when anyone comes to the WinStar World Casino or any of our casinos, it's my job to protect the fighters, the patrons that come, everyone that comes to the arena or comes to the event. It's my job to protect them, protect everyone, our staff. So a code of conduct is very important for us and our staff when especially with sometimes with the media. It's as an employee of the Chickasaw Nation, I cannot officially visit with the media. We have a spokesperson. The tribe has a spokesperson that will not. They're the only ones that speak for the Chickasaw Nation and inside of its jurisdiction. So I don't have the honor to go to a media and discuss that event. So, and every tribe is different. Missouri has that right to speak to the media. I don't. So actually, I'll visit with our attorney and so forth, and from there we'll start from there, and they'll answer all the media's questions. Okay, let's move on. This is really about our official, our ringside officials, as boxing officials, we are privileged to judge the referees boxing. You know, this is an area everyone needs a code of conduct and have all of our employees. I have all our employees to sign. And so they cannot really go and speak with the media. If I would like to know how many of the commissions out there, what happens if your referee or judge go out and speak with the media? Do you suspend them? Do you have the right to fine anyone? These are some questions I would like to learn from other jurisdictions. What do you do? Does anybody out there have an answer to that? Do you just suspend them? Kim?
Their actions in the media, especially when they become involved in speaking on behalf of the commission. And that's where the real problem comes in. You know, if a referee were to stand up and say, you know, I was in New York and I officiated this fight and gosh, I'm even trying to articulate the best way to say this, but you know, if they say, well, the commission said I had to do this, now you've got yourself a real problem because this referee is absolutely not a spokesperson for the commission. And in fact, in most commissions, we can't speak to the media without permission either. I know that in New York, we're prohibited, all employees are prohibited, all employees, all officials are prohibited from speaking to media. We do that through very controlled channels. There are times that, you know, you can ask for permission to speak, but if we hire an official, and this is what a lot of people need to keep in mind, an official, a referee, a judge, a timekeeper, they're independent contractors. They're licensed by the state, but they're independent contractors. And if you were to go out into the world and say, okay, I want somebody to build my deck, okay? You're gonna call up somebody, you're gonna say, hey, I got a recommendation, build my deck for me, and you cause a problem with that deck. I'm just never gonna hire you again, you know? And I'm not gonna recommend you to other states or agencies or people who may use you. So the official has to be very, very cautious in making sure that they're not only protecting themselves, but also protecting the integrity of the state that hired them.
Well said. Thank you very much on that one because that's very important. Like I said, I've been a long-time employee, and I feel like as an employee, well, I'm a tribal member, so I always feel like it's a tribal business. It's part of my business as well. I mean, as a member, so it's very important for me to take care of my tribe, make sure there's no negative, and we're doing the best we can to regulate. And I don't want any of our inspectors to leave talking to the media. So if they do, actually, I'm just going to I'm not going to fine them, but I will probably suspend them or revoke their license because everyone has to have a license to come on tribal. If you're working a tribal event, you have to be licensed through our jurisdiction, and you have to follow the laws of our jurisdiction. If something should happen, you're going to have to go through our court system. We have our own courts as well. So there's a lot of things there that, but I probably just won't use you if you go to the media for anything. And I really want to protect the promoter as well. And it's all about protecting the promoter, especially if I have a staff that goes to the media and says, well, you know, actually one of the inspectors didn't sign off on a glove or something like that, and, you know, and that it caused damage to one of the fighters. Anything could happen, but it's very important. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Taking pictures of officials, referees, judges, promoters is not acceptable during fight night. I totally agree. We have, I do have sometime I have new inspectors that come in, or someone that wants to shadow. I don't know how you guys are with shadowing, allowing new inspectors to come in to shadow, but they are treated the same way as our regular paid employees, and they're not really paid. I mean, they're contractors, but I treat them the same way, and they're not allowed to take pictures with fighters. Now, I do want to ask this. Let's say the event is over with. Let's say it's 2 hours after the event. Do you allow at that time? I do not allow I don't allow everybody to go on Facebook. Let's put it that way. They can't do that the same night of the event. That can't happen. Does anyone allow that? Anyway, no? Do you not allow does anyone, I'm assuming you guys don't allow pictures with the fighters as well? No? Yes, ma'am. That's okay, Kim.
Yeah, as far as pictures, we don't allow anything like that. You know, we're regulators, you know, and while we're doing our jobs, we're not fans of the sport. We're not fan of any particular fighter. And when you allow your staff to take photos with fighters, it can give the perception or, you know, of impropriety because we are supposed to be an impartial body.
Yes.
So we don't wear any, you know, clothing that would say the UFC or BKFC, or we don't allow anything like that. Anything that shows that we're, you know, not focused on our responsibility, but rather focused on, you know, the hype and the fandom and all of that kind of stuff. So no, we don't allow photographs. We don't allow going out with the athletes after. There's no after parties. There's nothing like that. You are completely impartial.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I know every event's different. Every event's different. We have the privilege of, we have one venue, so I'm looking at one venue all the time, where I know the states have multiple venues that they go to. And one of them might be a high school gym. One of them could be a bar or a club. And it's so different, but mine is so easy for me. You know, it's just I have that one venue right now. So it's so easy for me to regulate that. Go ahead, Skip.
Yeah, just to amplify what was already being stated. We look at it from an active licensee point of view, so it's not just boxers, and I think we know that, but I want to be explicit. Boxers, managers, seconds, no pictures with any of those licensees, so just to be clear. And you have to be mindful of the image, because sometimes you're at the hotel after a weigh-in, for example. When it's open to everybody, that's one thing, but to the point that was made, going out specifically with individuals that are licensees, no. But, you know, if you're in the lobby and everybody's there, that's a little different. But even with that, you still need to reflect on what's the perception, because if you're sitting and talking to a red corner boxer or their coach or their second, how might that look if a blue corner coach or boxer sees you there? So you just have to be very mindful and conscientious about it.
Yes. Okay, it says treat everyone, fighters, officials, promoters, coworkers, event staff, all the same, with the same amount of respect. Showing even one person favoritism can tip the scale more times than not. Not in the favor, you could lose assignments because of it. That is so true, and that's what we do. I mean, I don't treat Corey any better than I treat everyone else in his staff. Everyone that comes from Bellator, I try to treat them all the same. And I don't care if it's his level entry of people that come. I treat them just as well. And I try to keep it, everything private, so I don't, anyway, I do not try to take pictures with all their fighters, and I don't ask my staff to do it as well. Okay, tweeting. Now, we know that can be a problem as well. Think social media can be private? No, think again, there's no way. I mean, I have, even my children, I don't have Facebook myself. My children are always telling me, Dad, you need to get Facebook. I have 4 grown children, and they all tell me I need to get Facebook, but I don't have Facebook. I don't have Twitter. I don't have, and I should. Maybe I should. But it bothers me that, you know, I've been in gaming for a long time, and I have LinkedIn that I never answer. If you can send me something on LinkedIn and see how long it takes for me to get back with you. So, but I'm telling you, these are some things that I just don't do, and I don't ask my staff. If I need information, everyone can give me that information, but I'm just not a Facebook person. I do have a smartphone. I do have a smartphone. Hey, back off my buddy. Yeah, I do have a smartphone. It's just, I don't need Facebook. I really don't. People tell me what's in Facebook. Oh, they tell me all the time I need Facebook. I said, Dad, that's the only way you're going to get any information. I said, I'm just kind of getting up there in age that I really don't care. So, okay. Any responses that, you know, tweet, Michael, didn't you tweet you tried to tweet, didn't you, there was something out there that you did some tweeting that you,
Yeah, like probably a lot of you guys have, I have a code of conduct every official signs, and including inspectors. And I do watch, it goes back to many years ago. Oh God, who was a boxer? Well, anyway, I kicked a boxer out. Hey, Kimmy. Hey, Matt, the boxer from Rhode Island, the girl. Come on. Jimmy Birchfield uses her a lot. Not Shelley, but Matt. What's the last? Callie, what's that? Well, anyway, I was sitting there, and she came into the technical zone. She didn't have a pass. I tossed her out. And she ends up coming back, and I ended up throwing her out of the arena. And she just didn't accuse me of not liking women. She accused me of not liking Indians. She accused me of being a racist. And she went down the hole on Twitter. No, it wasn't Twitter. It was actually Instagram. And my daughter found it. The next day she came to me and said, look at this. And it was just funny because I was just like, I don't look at Twitter or Instagram or not. And my daughter's friend responded saying, you're disrespecting the guy that I grew up with, and he saved my life and all this other stuff. And everybody that read it responded to Callie saying, why would you do that to him? You know what I mean? It was just kind of funny, but that was one of the stories. Like, they were beating me up for no reason, and my daughter found out about it. And the response against Callie was hilarious because everyone's like, you know, you're not a very nice person. But so we do check Twitter. I check Twitter all the time on my officials. I've fired a couple people over Twitter. You know, the best one was, you know, a guy was, one of my judges was actually saying that, you know, this fighter A really lost and fighter B really won. And this is an MMA because MMA is, you know, a younger sport. And they signed a code of conduct for me before they come in. So it was a no-brainer for HR and myself, and out the door they went. So, you know, I do follow all that stuff, and, you know, I laugh, and, you know, some of the stuff they write a tweet about me, and you just move forward. But it's a great source to make sure your officials are doing the right thing. I mean, I had a Conor McGregor issue many years ago over in London where, you know, he jumped the cage and everything, and, you know, everyone, you know, was all over Twitter, and you know what? At the end of the day, we only can do what we can do and do the right thing and stick together as a body.
Thank you. You know, the other day I was listening to Scott's presentation, and you did a great job. I thought you did a great job on covering this stuff. And I mean, some of those things I think we all can learn from you and your experiences with your inspectors. And so anyway, really, I want to find out a lot of information from you guys. I want you to help me. Like I said, I've only been here 12 years. I've only been doing it for over, well, actually, we started in 8. But I want to learn from you guys. You guys are, I feel like many of you, Kim, I know you were here already doing it when I came on. Just about the majority of all of you guys, but I still feel so brand new, and you know, I owe a lot of thanks to like people like Dickie Cole, Joe Miller in Oklahoma, and Michael Mazzulli, and Jim Erickson. I know Jim's still with. I still call Jim a lot. We still talk, and he's still always. You know, he was really good into boxing. That's one thing I've always commended him about. And Andy Foster he was, now I speak with Andy every now and then, and always giving great advices. So anyway, I don't have a whole lot to go over with you guys. I know, because we really covered most of this the other day. Do you see down here where it says Mohegan Tribe Athletic Department? Now, do I work for Mohegans? No, I'm just joking with you, but it's all commissions, good ones, have a policy relating to social media and following it when it comes to the event, and ask them to educate yourself. You know, Mohegan, like I said, Michael's been a great asset to me. And I'm going over some things that you guys, I know you all have policies. I guess all of you have a code of conduct that when you first hired, you signed that code of conduct, right? Everybody has it, right? Everybody has a code of conduct for their employee, for their contractors, your officials. Everybody has it, right? Automatically? Andy, you do it all the time, right? If you have a new inspector, do you have them to sign a new code of conduct?
No, the inspectors are not covered. That's for the officials. The inspectors are state employees in California, and they have a whole different. I don't allow it, but it's a different document. My question to you, Haskell, I'm just having a conversation here. What's the benefit of social media for officials? What's the benefit of it? I mean, the only thing I can tell that they do with it is they're trying to impress people they went to high school with.
And usually so. Usually it's all over. I remember one gentleman, he put it on Facebook that night. And it was a question because it was a local fight. It was this fighter was more locally, and there was questions about what one of our inspectors did at that night of the event. So it came back to me that, was there favoritism there, from the inspectors? I just don't like to get on it at all, because I do hear about the local events. It's not so much the big ones, but and we don't have a lot of big ones, but it's
Well, the worst one that I've saw, and I remember his name. I won't say it out loud for the body because I felt bad for the kid, but he was a nice young man, upcoming judge or whatever. Probably got that fight wrong. Okay, the media made one article about it, or somebody. No, it was one of the commentators might have tweeted something about it. He proceeded to get into a Twitter argument with this announcer, and the media just jumped all over him. You remember this. Everybody remembers this. Been paying attention. And it kind of like decimated his trajectory. That was maybe his first or second big show. I don't see any benefit on it. Look, and you've had them. I have them. Derek and Sal, they're the worst, man. They'll have a bad decision. They'll be sitting back looking at their phones, looking at the comments coming in from social media about how awful they score and about all this stuff. They can't help themselves. They're back there doing it. I mean, the internet's mean.
Yes,
These guys try hard, but I don't see any benefit to that stuff for the officials. I don't see any benefit in general, but let's just say the officials. I don't see any benefit in it. I think it's rough. And, I tell my officials, listen, I'm not going to, you have First Amendment rights. You can do what you want to. I won't use you anymore, but there's nothing I can, really keep you from doing. But just for your own sanity, why would you want to take that criticism? News cycles work like wait 2 days, and they'll move on to something else. But if you keep messing with it, this will be a week-long story, and it just messes with people. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
very true. Okay, we have everybody has an opinion. Not everyone needs to hear that opinion, and I agree. I totally agree. Does anybody have any questions?
Actually, guys, under info at the ABC website, there's a code of conduct that we all adopted. You guys can check that out, too.
It's downloadable on the website, and so you can print it for any of your staff. But there's also a list of the 2019 attendees that signed that as well. Second tab under info on the ABC website.
The website will be being changed, right, ladies? Perhaps. Any questions? Thank you, Haskell.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I
put 'em on the
apologize. You always do. Hey, I do want to ask this though. I hope there's a lot more discussion and as far as media. I know it can be. I'm sorry. I know in court, like Corey, do you ever have problems with any of our staff? Like, do you see any problems with any of our inspectors or any of those that may come to you with problems? Do you have any of that? Do you hear anything?
I've had the pleasure of working under your supervision in your jurisdiction, and let me tell you something. You like to downplay it, but you run a tremendous organization. Your supervision and regulation of the Bellator events are just exemplary. there's always, you know, occasionally there's going to be an issue, but when we bring the issue to you, it's resolved instantly. You've created a great culture. You demonstrate great leadership, and it is an absolute pleasure to watch how well the shows are supervised and regulated, you know, under your jurisdiction. And I'm a nice guy. I would say something nice no matter what, but it doesn't help to not, you know, to just not say the truth. And like I said, Haskell, we love coming there.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those nice words. This was just a topic that I just felt uncomfortable because I think everyone already has this mandated in their, I mean, it's something that, to me, it comes automatic. This is the first thing we do as regulators is when we're hosting an event, you can't just go out and criticize the commission. You can't criticize the referees or judges. You just don't need it. We just don't need it. It hurts all of us. So, well, thank you, Michael. And thank you, guys.
Thank you. I got to tell you guys, when I first got elected a little while ago, I would talk to Haskell every single day because something would happen and I'd blow my top and I'd call him up, he'd calm me down. He's like, hey, Mike, it's okay. And I helped organize the Chickasaw Nation, and you know, when it comes to a human being, he's the best human being out there. He's just an amazing guy. So thank you, Haskell. And I think the code of conduct is a very important thing. Again, it's on the website. Where is it located? Info tab, second one over, and all my officials sign it. Talks about everything. So anyway, next up, I'm going to have Lydia come up here. She has a couple housekeeping things to say and do. So here you go, Lydia.
Thank you, thank you. Don't applaud, please throw money. Someone left their glasses on the podium last night at the banquet. They will be donated to Brian Dunn, who needs them badly. What's down on the agenda is the fraud, and I kind of addressed that on behalf of Allison when we gave the financial report. Any questions about the fraud stuff that we've managed to dodge? Okay, the other thing, we did form a finance committee, and on it are Patrick Cunningham from Florida, John Hollingsworth from South Carolina, Greg Alvarez from Texas, of course, Allison, the treasurer, Haskell Alexander, her boss, that makes good sense, from Chickasaw. And we're looking for 2 more that would like to serve on the finance committee. Once a quarter, you get the balance sheet and our bank records. And we would like 2 more volunteers. And that would be Bonnie Davis from Virginia. Is that correct? And Kenny Reels. Thank you very much. And so now we have our 7. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lydia. I just want to say one more thing. I had one person come up to me, ask me if Miss Lydia was my wife. And I said, there's no way in God's good earth she could be my wife. But with that said, I just want to thank everybody for attending. I just want to have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Anyone having a motion to adjourn the meeting?